Hey, what's up guys? So back with another video on a Modern Monday. So I went out to a Modern tournament on Monday yesterday, and yeah, talk about how I did and show you guys some progress I made and how I did, and talk about some gameplay, and yeah, let's go from there. You know the drill. Okay, so yeah, went out yesterday. New ban list came out, so um, Urian was banned. And what that means for the format is not much. I don't think much is gonna change, but I think paper is gonna be a little bit funner to play, since gameplay wise, like what they said about the ban was that they wanted to limit the amount of downtime I guess each player has, which makes sense because like the worst thing about playing against a Urian deck is it takes a while. They usually go into time. They have a very slow clock, and essentially what they try to do is set up Omnath, get enough mana, add Urian, play Urian, have all their stuff on their board come back, blink, have a bunch of effects, and you as a player who isn't or doesn't have interaction with any of that stuff that's going on the board, you kind of just sit there for minutes on end, just waiting for your opponent to resolve their effects. Meanwhile, you're probably gonna lose once Urian hits the board. So it's just that feeling of like it's a feels bad sort of deck to play against, unless you can clock them really quickly, or you have like insane amounts of like removal or counters or something. If you're playing any sort of like mid-range deck or any sort of like slow strategy, you just get kind of preyed on by the Urian deck, and they just grind you out and they win. So Urian getting rid of Urian kind of promotes a faster game plan. It promotes sort of like you playing faster and just games ending quicker, which I obviously appreciate that. As a control player myself, games ending faster so you can move on, not going to time. It's always a good feeling. But yeah, so that's what it generally means for the formats. So I think it's gonna be less greedy for sure. Without Urian, decks are not gonna be as greedy, but because decks are gonna be smaller and they're gonna be in their 60 card variant, most likely they're gonna be a little bit maybe more consistent, maybe not as greedy in their mana base per se. But that doesn't mean that Omnath and Ren and 6 are gonna disappear from the format. They're still gonna exist. They're still gonna be great cards. There's still gonna be a deck that you have to be able to play against and win. So we might see a shift in moving more back to like elemental tribal. So you might see Kahira pop up as the next sort of companion to be played. The good thing about Kahira is it's more or less just an extra card for them. So it's an extra card for them to pitch for either endurance or subtlety. Because Kahira itself doesn't do much. Like once you play a Kahira, it's just a 3/2 body that gives everything you have vigilance and a +1/1. It's still a good card in terms of like since it's free. It's not so good if it's like you gotta like put it in your deck, but it's a good card since it's free. It's just a body on board that buffs your stuff up. It can make your like Fury hit for like 8/8 with like or a 4/4 with double strike, stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't think Kahira is gonna break the meta like how Urian and Loris did. So yeah. So anyways, the ban list went into effect, and like I said, I made some changes to my deck last week, and yeah, I tried them out this week, and I think it was pretty good. Let's talk about an overview of the games I played. So game one I played against. Let me think about it real quick. I actually don't really remember what my game one was. Oh, I was playing against combo Izzet, grape shot, combo sort of deal, or storm, basically a storm deck. So game one was against Storm. Game 2 was against Creativity. Game 3 was Hammertime, and Game 4 was Mono Red Prison. So I won all my game except for against Creativity and the last game against Modern Red Prison, I decided just to split with the opposing player, so we didn't play it out. But we've played each other multiple times, and generally, he knows that I would typically I have higher win rate against him than he does against me. So, but we wanted to go home early, so just with the prizes, just went home. But yeah, anyways, so game one against the um, the combo deck. Not much to say. Like it, once I got out to Fairy on the board, it was just kind of like hard for him to sort of deal with that. And I also had some graveyard hate, so I think he also ran like the Gifts Undoing and or Gifts Ungiven combo, and Breach and stuff. But for the most part, yeah, game one I kind of just I think I killed him with the Emperor eventually, because I just had a bunch of like Samurai tokens that he couldn't deal with, while trying to also combo off, and I was applying a lot of pressure through that way. And I think I might have Hall of Storm Giant too. That might have been game two where I got Hall of Storm Giant out and started smacking him with it. But yeah, I 2-0'd there. So there's nothing I really want to say about that particular matchup, because I think in general my deck as a control deck does well against a combo deck, so not much to really say about that. The cards I sided in would be something like this, I think. Yeah. So yeah, pretty straightforward side. Not much else to say. The Chalice, because I know he was playing Serum's Visions. He was playing all the cheap, cantrips to up his storm count. So for sure, Chalice of the Void, great there. Stop his combo. Obviously, this doesn't stop Grape Shot. You just have to make sure you stop Metamorphosis or one of the red Impulse mana cards. If you let those go off and you let him, get the Impulse mana off, or like Expressive Alliteration or something like that, then you're kind of screwed. Same thing with like Aether Gust. Aether Gust was definitely there to hit the Impulse mana cards, hit Metamorphosis, hit Expressive Alliteration. Unfortunately, will not stop Grape Shot. If they have a high enough storm count. At one point, he did get his storm count to like 7 or so, or 7 or 8. That was not enough to kill me. I think I was pretty healthy. I was at like 17 health, 16. I was pretty careful to not, shock myself as much as I normally would. And I kept myself healthy. I think I just flashed in like a Solitude, just start being facing with that. With his storm count, he managed to blow up a couple of my creatures, clear my board with his storm count. So he ended up using Grape Shot just to kind of kill off my creature presence, so to buy him more time. That didn't really matter because I think he was at 10 health, and I think I flashed in a Snapcaster. I still had the Emperor out on 1 loyalty, and I had a Hall of Storm Giant. So next turn I had lethal. I would have just gave a +1 to my Snapcaster and then animate the Hall of Storm Giant and just finish him off from there. But yeah, so good games for me. It wasn't terribly difficult, but you do have to be careful because they still can kill you even if you have counter spells and stuff up like that. You just have to be careful of what you counter and go from there. So not much else to really talk about. So 2-0 there. Next game was against Creativity. Now this is my first time ever playing against Creativity. So I have an idea of what the deck does. I kind of know the strategy from playing Indomitable Creativity on Magic Arena back when it was in Standard, and sometimes I play against it in Explorer. So I have an idea of how the deck works and what to do and how to counter it. Unfortunately for me, this time around, I didn't quite have enough counter spells, I think, or enough like removal. So game one was kind of rough. Like we were at a spot where we're even, but I didn't have a counter spell. So he ended up having like 2 goblins that he gets off of the goblin land, the red goblin land. He gets up like 2 goblins and a treasure token, and he ends up doing creativity for 3. and I just didn't have a counterspell. I had no way of interacting with any of the stuff. I didn't have any removal. I forgot what I had in my hand. I honestly think I had like some pretty useless stuff in my hand. Either that or I was tapped out. Anyways, he sacks 3 things, gets out 3 Archons of Cruelty, and that was basically the game. I couldn't really come back from that. He healed up a bunch, drew a bunch of cards, sacked all my permanents, and that was it. So, unfortunately, couldn't really do much against that. Game 2, what I sided in, or at least attempted to try to side in and stop his strategy, was something like this, I think. Something like this. So the idea here was to, the Aether Gust was for the Indomitable or the Reckless, or I forgot what was it called. Reckless Impulse? No. It's the other polymorph card that they play that's not Indomitable. I forget. It's another red card. Either way, this was to stop that, and this was also to stop that. This right here was to kind of clear his board of all the treasure tokens, all the crabs, all the you know, the 1/1 goblins and stuff like that. And then, you know, obviously Teferi to stop him from countering. For the game, it was pretty much back to back. The turning point was where I just couldn't win this counterspell war because I just didn't have enough counterspells. He had Veil of Summers, he had Spell Pierce and stuff like that, and I just couldn't win it. Eventually, you know, he gets out a he does get out, like, I think 2 Archons. I managed to kill both the Archons. I think with one of the Archons I killed with the Emperor. Another Archon I killed with temporary, or sorry, Leyline Binding. That's I forgot to talk about Leyline Binding, but Leyline Binding was pretty good in this deck. So it got rid of a lot of like random answers for me, and it worked pretty well. So I do like it. I don't know if I like it at 3, but I definitely do like the card. It's worked well. Even at 2 to 3 mana when I used it, it was fine. Like I couldn't always get out domain for it, but it worked out just as well even without the domain active. And so yeah, I do like the card. It worked out well. Talk about it a little bit later in my assessment of it towards the end of the video. So yeah, anyways, getting back to the game, I think game 2 would have been okay if I managed to get out a Teferi, but I didn't see a Teferi all 3 games, or all 2 games that we played, because I got too old by it. So game 2, if I definitely saw a Teferi, I would have been fine. You know, his strategy would fall apart if he couldn't remove the Teferi, because then I would just be able to counter all the Indomitable Creativities. I would counter the polymorph cards and stuff like that, and then I don't think he has any way of hard casting Archon or hard casting whatever. But either case, he managed to get out Emrakul. I had an answer for Emrakul. I was gonna play a 5-mana Teferi to tuck it, but he had a Spell Pierce for my Teferi, and that was the game. So unfortunately, my first experience against Indomitable Creativity was sort of a failure there. Now I think it's just maybe on I just had bad draws, or maybe I could have done something a little bit different. But either way, I don't think it was like a game where if I played maybe Indomitable multiple times, I probably would have like a pretty close to 50-50 win rate. But just with a sample size of 1, it's hard to say what I did wrong, what I didn't do right, you know, or vice versa. So for now, I'm just gonna leave it in the back burner, saying I'm not gonna bring any side cards for Indomitable, purely just because I lost to it. I'm not gonna bring in like Grabdigger's Cage or anything like that right now. It's a popular deck for sure in the meta, but it is kind of expensive to build, and so not a lot of people are playing it on paper, I think. Although I did see a bunch of them float around the RCQ, I don't think any of them did well at the RCQ. So I think the strategy is great. The strategy is slow though. So if they're playing like really fast decks, if you're playing like Grixis Death Shadow, you're playing something like that, you can kill their tokens off really easily. You can pick away at their hands, kind of destroy their strategy really easily. For me, there, I just playing against a deck that also plays counter spells with to back up their combo. It's always a little hard to play with, like against like Living End, against that stuff like that. Like you have to win the counter spell war. That's a little hard, or if you don't have the counter spell or the removal, you're kind of dead on board. So, yeah, I'm just gonna say if I get more practice against it, I should be fine. So I'm not gonna really change my deck or tutor my deck to fight against the creativity just yet. I don't think there's any cards I could add in that would make it a better matchup anyways. So we'll leave it at that for now. So yeah, 2-0 lost to creativity. Next game against Hammertime. Hammertime, so I have some experience dealing with Hammertime. Now it's not a deck I play a lot of. I think I definitely have a better time against Hammertime than against Affinity. Like Affinity is the deck that I just cannot deal with. Hammertime I can typically deal with if I can assess their threats correctly, kind of read what moves they're trying to do, and yeah. So game one, it was pretty much back and forth. I made a few misplays, but yeah, game one, it was close, but I think what he did was he got out cranial plating with what's the other, Shadow Spear, and he put it into a construct and made it like a 15-15. So I couldn't block that to survive. Otherwise, and I didn't have any removal for that. So I was spending a lot of my removal killing off, like, I think he had 3 Esper Sentinels, and I was just like, dude, this thing is insane, man. I'm trying to remove as many Esper Sentinels as I can. He also had the Blacksmith white protection card that gives it protection and gives it indestructible. So like I spent a lot of my resources trying to fight the Esper Sentinels, and I kind of like try to deal with some of his Urza constructs, but eventually like I just ran out of resources and he toppled over me, and I just lost game one there. Game two went pretty well for me. Same with game three. I think game two was a little more back to back, but we were running a little bit close on time. So I think he conceded a little earlier than what I thought he would have. But basically what happened in game two was I was able to chalice on turn 2, and I think that's kind of how the game kind of boiled down to. Like, he just couldn't get much on the board. He did get a couple of constructs on the board with, I think he had like double Urzas, but I managed to be able to kind of take care of them. I had enough removal. I think I had Leyline Bindings. I had Prismatic Ending. So I did misplay though. I did Prismatic Ending on at one point. So, and then he pointed out I had Chalice on the Void, and I was like, shit, you're right. I just countered myself. Totally forgot about Chalice on the that's still on the board. So that was my misplay. I wasn't trying to cheat him or Chalice check myself or anything like that. I totally forgot I had Chalice on the board. It was sitting to the side somewhere with a dice counter, and I was just kind of I forgot I even had it on the board. So Chalice is something I need to kind of focus on having, or focus on remembering it's there, because sometimes I forget that it's a trigger effect. Like it's not something like where you can't cast this X card, like like Drowned Magistrate or something like that, where it just tells you can't cast it. Where with Chalice is like, I still think, I can still play a card. Technically you can, but it gets countered. So I misplayed there, but I think the Chalice on kind of locked him out of the game. And basically he conceded there because I don't think there was any way for him to kind of remove it. I kind of just nuked his board multiple times. I think I damned his board, and I supreme verdict it with the constructs and the Omnicopter that he did have on the board. So I never let him basically get anything to stick on the board. So yeah, he scooped game two there. Oh yeah, let me talk about what I did put in for against them real quick. Okay, so I think this is what I sided in, and I think what I took out was just like 4 ops and something else. 4 ops and like I think a Kai's Guile. So reasoning behind this is Chalice will not win you. It will not auto win you against Hammer Time. It will delay them though. It will definitely delay their strategy. They can still get around Chalice by using Urza Sagas to make constructs and then to fetch their 1 mana artifacts, get out the hammer and stuff like that. It's namely here to stop essentially Sigarda's aid. If they already have Sigarda's aid on the board, you're kind of screwed, so just be careful of that. But yeah, like, Chalice is not an auto-win. They can definitely play around it. But if their hand's just full of like 1 mana cards and they don't have Urza Saga, then yeah, that's how you would essentially win the game from there. Temporary Lockdown, I cited it a few times, but I never saw it, so I can't say if it's good or not. Against his board, like game 1 for sure. If I resolve a Temporary Lockdown, I would have just straight up won from there. Same thing with a couple of other instances where if I just resolve one lockdown, I would have won. He didn't seem to have any way of getting rid of enchantments, nor did he have any way of getting rid of other artifacts. So I want to say this card's gonna be good. I just never drew it or never saw it, so I can't say if it was good or not. Yeah, Teferi. I wanted Teferi to stop him from playing the blacksmith skill, in response to my removal. That's what the fairy is namely there for, and to obviously maybe kill a construct or something like that, draw you a card, and that's all the purpose that the fairy serves. It's not the greatest card against this particular matchup. It's still good though, because sometimes you can bounce an Urza Saga, bounce a construct, or bounce but it is kind of weak to something like multiple Sentinels, Esper Sentinels and stuff like that. It is a slow card against them, but I do like it. And in Verdict, Verdict's just Verdict, just to clear the board. Granted, it's not so great against Hammertime, because their board's generally not very wide. They usually only have like 1 or 2 creatures. They slap a hammer on that creature and smack you with it. So Verdict's still nice, but obviously it only like solves the a little bit of the construct issues, but it doesn't solve every issue. So yeah, I mean that's all I cited in. For game 3, I think I just had it locked down. Like I was playing very conservatively. Game 1 definitely did tilt me because I misplayed. A bit of game 2 too tilted me a little bit, but game 3 I decided to just buckle down. We have like 10 minutes left, and I gotta win this game in 10 minutes, and I decided to just focus and try not to make any misplays. Went really well for me. I didn't see Chalice. I didn't see any of these cards. I think I only saw one Teferi, I think. But what won me the game was just being able to kind of control his board. He like the Omnicopters and stuff like that. I was blowing those up, removing as many as I can. Same thing with the Urza construct tokens. Eventually, I was able to get out Teferi. I had 5 mana. I had Teferi out, bounce an Esper Sentinel or something like that. He goes to main phase, blacksmith a Omnicopter. So I had a counter spell, but obviously it's not really worth countering that. So in my mind, I knew he was going to probably try to equip a hammer to the copter and attack with it. So he casted the blacksmith. What I did was I had 5 mana. 3 of them was tap. I think this was my mana base here. Let me show you real quick. I had something like this. Something like this. So this was my mana base. So I think I tapped something like this, right? So I tapped these to cast a fairy, bounce back an Esper Sentinel or something like that. He goes to equip, goes main phase, blacksmith the Omnicopter. So I know he's trying to swing in with it, because there's no reason for him to do that. So what I did is I had a Leyline in my hand, and this is why I think Leyline was pretty good in this instance here. Let me see if we can find a Leyline somewhere here. Sorry, my deck's just kind of disorganized at the moment. Do I not see any Leylines, or did I see them and not process them? Oh, here we go. So I had a Leyline and a couple other. I think I had a Leyline and a counterspell in my hand. So I had 2 mana open. He had an Esper Sentinel on the board. So anyways, he goes to try to equip it, or try to give it the blacksmith. And what I did was I crack the Flooded Strand. search for a steam vent, have it come in shocked, and then oh sorry, this, yeah. So then I played. Now I have domain active. I have black, green, and red. So I cast domain or cast ley line targeting the Omnicopter. Esper Sentinel triggers. I pay the Esper Sentinel cost, and then this comes in, gets rid of the Omnicopter, and yeah, that was basically a pretty good move on my part, I thought. And then he goes to main 2, or he just kind of basically kind of skips the combat phase because he doesn't have anything else to attack with now. He goes main 2, equips the Esper Sentinel with the freaking hammer. I go, okay, that's fine. My turn. I think I have like an Archmage Charm or something like that in my hand too. So I go untap. I just draw my card and I pass turn. He goes, tries to attack with Esper Sentinel. It's 11/11 now. It's pretty big. I Archmage Charm the Esper Sentinel. So I take control of it. It triggers. I can't pay for it now because it's like a freaking 11 mana to pay for the Esper Sentinel. So I let him draw his card. That's fine. He tries to drop a Pure Steel Paladin on me. I counter the Pure Steel Paladin. Reason why is obviously if I let the Pure Steel Paladin resolves, he's gonna re-equip the hammer to the Pure Steel Paladin for free, and I didn't want that. I wanted the hammer on the Esper Sentinel. I wanted the Esper Sentinel to swing in for 11, and I also want him to tax him for every time he plays an an artifact or a spell that's not a creature or whatever. So yeah, I counter it. He goes after countering this Pure Steel, he passes turn. I smack him with the 11/11 Esper Sentinel. He goes down to 9, and then I think from there I just took control of the game. So like I think I had other counter spells or another removal. I either had another Prismatic Ending or I had another ley line in my hand. So yeah, like end up winning that game. And yeah, we talked about our game plans at the end of the game, and it was a pretty close one. But yeah, I think just me figuring out what threat and figuring out what his line of play was, and then just kind of playing around that's what allowed me to essentially win the game against Hammertime. And yeah, it was pretty good. Like game 1, it was just unfortunate. He just kept dropping so many Esper Sentinels against me, and I just spent all my resources trying to kill him. But and try and play around their cost, and it just wasn't worth it, I think. Maybe I should have just not let him draw the cards and do whatever. But yeah, MVP in the match up was definitely going to be Land Binding. Helped me out a lot, getting rid of a bunch of stuff. Prismatic Ending was pretty good. Teferi was good. And Archmage Charm, obviously the best card against them, because almost all their threats are 1 mana or less. So if you can just steal their stuff, it's it's perfect. It's not the it's not like an automatic win against them, but definitely helps you to come back. Unfortunately, if they have like 2 or 3 Urza Sagas on the board, it becomes kind of hard to take care of all the construct tokens, and the fact that he keeps equipping it with hammer and stuff like that for free made it a little bit harder to deal with. But yeah, managed to somehow win that one. I had multiple misplays and stuff like that, but yeah, that was a good game, I thought. And surprisingly, I did not get turn 2 killed or something like that. Like, he had Inkmoth Nexus a few times. I was a little scared of that. Like, I was like, oh shit, is this gonna be like a turn 2 kill? Like, does he have it? But yeah, fortunately for me, he didn't have it. But he still killed me, like, some other way. Game 1, and then game 2 and 3 was just kind of close. But yeah, game 2 just Chow's kind of stole that game from him, and then game 3, I think it was just playing correctly around his threats and stuff like that, and that's what won me the game. And then yeah, game 4 didn't happen. It's just because Mono Red Prison, and we played against each other multiple times. So decided to split and call it a day. So didn't happen. But yeah, so I ended up going 2-1-1. So 2 wins, 1 loss, and a draw. So that was my record. Ended up getting 8th place or so. If I played it out with the mono red player, I would probably have gotten like 4th or something like that. And about 22 people were there today, yesterday. So it was a decent size locals for Monday. So I think everyone kind of just came out for the Urian ban list, and they were trying stuff, new deck ideas and stuff like that. And the fact that getting rid of Urian makes paper Magic a lot more bearable and more playable, which is really nice, because playing Magic online and playing paper Magic is completely different. Online, you don't have the hassle of shuffling your deck. You don't really have to think about that. You kind of let the cards resolve pretty quickly. Everything's kind of autopilot for you. Where in paper Magic, it's just a pain when you're resolving stuff. It's just kind of boring when you're sitting there, you're staring at your opponent doing a bunch of stuff where you're just sitting there like, got maybe 1 or 2 cards in their hand, and they just end up drawing like 4 cards off of like Omnath or when Ren and 6 it's just not fun. But yeah, getting rid of the Urian, I think it's definitely going to be healthier for the format. I mean, Companion in general has always been kind of a debatable subject, whether they should just ban the mechanic completely or they should just change it again. I think Companion itself is fine in terms of the way it is now. I think the cards, it's just the only issue with Companion is that their restrictions weren't restrictive enough, and so when they're able to be splashed into decks, that's when it becomes an issue. Stuff like you only play odd cards or only even cards. Those are fine. Like there's nothing inherently broken about those, and their effects are just they're still good effects, but the restrictions are actually were actually very restrictive. Where like Luris wasn't, and Urian isn't really restrictive either. Adding 20 cards to your deck doesn't really do anything other than make your deck a little less consistent, but because of all the fetch lands and Ren and 6 and stuff like that, your consistency didn't change at all. And then same with Luris, you're a low end mana deck, so it didn't matter that you couldn't play 3 mana permanents. That doesn't matter. But yeah, so my opinion, getting rid of Luris or Urian is a good start. I still prefer Ren and 6 to be banned, honestly. I think that card is just too good for what it is, especially on turn 2. If it was 3 mana, it'd be fine. Same thing with like Oko. Like if Oko was like 4 mana, maybe 5 mana, Oko would definitely be fine. But the fact that they come down so early and they are just really hard to remove, really hard to interact with. If they stick on the board, they eventually just win you the game through just resources and stuff like that. So I think I would still prefer Ren and 6 be banned. Ragavan I'm okay with. Ragavan forces you to play interaction. If you don't play interaction, then you're gonna be kind of cucked. So for Magic players who don't like to play interaction, unfortunately, that's part of the game, and if you don't interact with your opponent and you let Ragavan go wild on you, then yeah, you're gonna not have a good time. But yeah, I don't think Ragavan is like as broken as the other two. Like definitely it does, it's very annoying to deal with. It does apply pressure. It can win games if it sticks out on the board for sure. But of the 3 evils or the 4 evils out there in the modern world, I think Ragavan is probably like 3rd or 4th from the top, and I think Red and 6 definitely takes the 1st place on top of that. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. The last thing I guess I want to talk about here, kind of just a I guess digressing here a little bit, is these freaking lands are so damn expensive. Like I should have bought them when they were like 30-40 bucks. I went to Franks and Son and picked up a few that whatever they had there. I picked up just regular foils because the rest of my deck is just regular foils, so I didn't even pick up the Galaxy stuff. But like, geez, man, like these things are just jumping up in price, and with how with the way that the market looks and the way that supply looks too, it looks really bad right now. So I don't even know if if they'll drop down back in like affordable price range anymore. I can foresee in the future that these cards might be worth a lot too in the future, for sure. Kind of like the Expedition lands, assuming that Wizard doesn't print some sort of other special like full border shocks or something like that. But in terms of the artwork, I definitely like these artworks the best out of everything that I've seen. Save for the exception of the original Zendikar Expedition lands. But yeah, outside of that, like, yeah, these shocks look fantastic, and they look better in Galaxy Foil if you can afford those. I just wanted to stick with the regular foils for the rest of my deck. So I'm still missing a bunch of these. So I only got this playset right now, or just these three only. That's all I got. So I'm looking to pick up more if I can find them. But yeah, with hopefully they drop in the next month or so, maybe a week, or maybe Wizard does a reprint or something. But because it's Infinity, like there's a high chance that they won't print anymore. But if this product does well enough, there's a chance that with the way that Wizard is going right now, where they just want to make profit on profit, they might just print more of these, and hopefully that will drive down the price back to like the $30 range, and you can kind of pick these up. And I definitely think they're worth the investment. I don't know if they're worth the like $60 or $50 investment per land, but I think at like $30 to $40, they're definitely kind of like nice to pick up. Considering that they're borderless, the arts are nice, and it is from a specialty product, and we are kind of in a recession, so chances are that 10 years from now or something like that, that these cards might be worth a lot, just because so few packs were open or very limited supply. But then again, like I said, there's a high chance that Wizard in the next 5 years is gonna print like another version of this, maybe like another like borderless version. Doesn't necessarily have to be space themed, but they might do something else, and that might just drive these prices down. We never know, or they just mass print more Infinity boxes and put that into the market. We don't know what Wizard's gonna do, but chances are that they're gonna try to maximize their profit and print more of these lands where the borderless stuff becomes not special anymore. But in my opinion, I definitely love these art. Like, they just look so nice. Like, I'm willing to kind of like pay for these arts, and even if they go down in price in the future, I think I'm okay with keeping these. So yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed, and then I'll see you guys next time.